this historical time period, what's going on, and we're going to dive into it. But I think it's fitting to start off today's recording discussing, commemorating the assassination, the passing of Imam Ali Khamenei on February 28th at the age of 86. At every pace of history, whether it's decades or the weeks, it requires a man who meets the historical moment. And in every phase, it doesn't have to be someone you agree with. It could be someone like Napoleon, someone like, in a twisted way, Churchill. In the moments, in the time period that I've been alive, the past 33 years, no one on the planet Earth has been a fort against hegemony, stood tall while you saw governments, regimes, states across the world kowtow in a post-USSR world. Imam Khamenei, in his whole life, even prior to being supreme leader, a life as a war veteran, as a political prisoner, under torture at times, managed to always have the highest moral ground possible in any situation. And I think, safe to say we don't revert to sycophancy here. We've criticized everyone, including ourselves, because, we don't know anything either. But I don't think there is any question. There is no debate on the resolve, and honestly, just the dignity with which Imam Khamenei departed this world at the hands of a belligerent Zionist regime that seems to have been, it's not drunk on power. They're on some power meth. They're on some power coke. They're on something different, bro. Else. And honestly, when you get into those types of drugs, enjoyment really quickly turns into self-destruction. And that's what the Zionist state is doing right now. It is only possible because Ayatollah Khamenei's past 40 years, 50 years, honestly, his 86 years of his life, he maintained the standard that we all need to really aspire towards. Not that we can all become supreme leader. That's not the point. The point is not to give in. We will not make a deal on dignity in any situation. And I think that stands true more than today. I heard in the aftermath, obviously, again, we're going to get into the details just to point out how easy it is for someone even who has nothing on the line, like me, you, to make a deal on dignity. In the past month or so, it's been almost 2 months since the war in Iran started. And looks like it has ended today, a few hours ago. We met people who were willing to mop floors if they got drafted by the US Navy. Willing to make a deal on dignity. As in, it's not that you will become general and then you have to go and do evil stuff. You will be our peasant, mopping our floors, cooking our food, serving us while we go bomb people around the world. Maybe even some people you claim to be your own. But it's okay. What can we do? We have no other option. We're going to give in. And that, the antithesis to that type of mentality stood with us so long. And with his death, with his assassination, he has set the course for human history over the next 50 years. There's no doubt in my mind today when we were recording. And honestly, if we had managed to record last week as we had intended to, but obviously we've been relocating again. I can safely say the U.S. empire as we knew it 2 months ago is over. The U.S., your granddad's U.S. empire, my dad's U.S. empire, that's over. It is a new world order. Taking the liberty of sounding like H.W. Bush, it's a new world order.
Yeah.
And we can get into who's going to be pulling the strings in the new world order, but I think I would like to congratulate any person who, I don't know about your disposition politically, religiously, spiritually. If you are for dignity, for your own dignity, congrats to you, whether you're American, Irani, Pakistani, Mongolian, Chinese, it does not matter. We stand together as people. I know there are compromises in everything in life. There will be no compromise on dignity. We will not be humiliated.
And that's the slogan, right? Never to humiliation. That is the slogan that people like Ayatollah Khamenei embodied, people with that ethic, people like Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. This is one of the slogans that it has a theological weight to it, right? And that's where you can see a resolve that somebody like Ayatollah Khamenei had that's unmatched in the West, right? You look at the leaders of the West, somebody like Trump, and you look at the leaders of resistance, somebody like Ayatollah Khamenei, or even any of the other martyrs who were killed over the past 2 months. The caliber is just night and day difference, right? Poets, philosophers, theologians,
PhDs.
scholars, PhDs.
In Western philosophy, they know your philosophy
PhDs in
better
Western
than you.
and Islamic and Eastern philosophy. I mean, like just all around, right? The caliber is different, and that is not something that is just by chance, right? There is a civilizational heritage to this. And it was one 86-year-old man who was holding down the fort for that civilizational heritage, which Trump threatened to wipe out, right? And you come to realize that that's actually something that he's been doing, like you said, his whole life. And the revolution that he was a part of, right? And the regional resistance that he was a part of. If it wasn't clear to people before now, it should be crystal clear now that that is a manifestation of the ethic of never to humiliation, right? That Imam Husayn said on the battlefields of Karbala. And not to make some equivalency between the events or the personalities, but the ethic transcends just that moment 1400 years ago to now, right? And the fact that we got to live in an era where we saw that ethic operationalized with something like Iran, the resistance axis, is incredible, right? You could be born at any time in history, and this is a great time in human history that we're seeing. And I think when we, at our initial episodes of the podcast, I think one of the earlier ones was right after Russia had invaded Ukraine. And so when you talk about this new era, this podcast coincides with the harbingers, these events that are harbingers of the new era. Russia invading Ukraine, right? Or COVID before that, after that, whatever. Before that,
COVID 2020. I think
COVID
Russia
2020.
invaded April 22.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And then this. So we really are entering into a new era.
And it had to be with the overbearing cost of the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei.
Something interesting you were saying the other day is that some people, when they die, they're even more alive in their death. But you look at people who, on the other hand, there are people who are dead while they walk the earth. Ayatollah Khamenei is one of those people who has been immortalized. His legacy will be immortalized. He will be written about for hundreds or thousands of years, like today. We read about great people in the past making valiant stands to save their nations and to fight against aggressors and transgressors, and we just saw the making of a martyr who was immortalized in history. And the contrast when you look at society and you see people who are dead while they're alive,
I mean,
is blatant, like never before.
Yeah. And I mean, I felt like even when I first heard it, when it happened, I was getting a haircut. And I started bawling while the haircut's going on. The guy's looking at me, what's happening? And there was other Shias there, and they were getting the news at the same time. I think it was 3 p.m. on a Saturday or something. And
you're talking about the Arab spot?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I almost felt like, a couple of people started crying also in there. And then I met other people who were very emotional. And it was not cry. I felt like at some point I wasn't crying about anyone, not anyone. Ayatollah Khamenei's martyrdom. I was not. it was the emasculation of you talking about this, us doing this podcast. We meet people, we go to the centers, we go to mosques, we have friends that go to churches, and we're talking about talking about what though? As in, like, at the end of the day, you said this, if it's not crystal clear. I have met people who say it's not crystal clear for anyway, and this is a tangent. It's not crystal clear yet. They're still confused. I mean, you should be crying about yourself right now. This is not about any political or religious thing. If you do not have clarity in this moment after what's happened since COVID, forget anything else, since COVID, if you do not have clarity at this moment, there is it's not sinister, it's a disease. There's a disease of the intellect.
It's a spiritual disease, it's an intellectual disease.
Yeah, there's a disease, there's a blockage, there's a fog that is we're going to get into the diagnoses and how the modes of analyses people have used to diagnose this. I think the addition of fog with a process, a critical thinking process that is extremely flawed, extremely compromised by the urban liberal elitist education that we have mostly received in this country. There's 500,000 Shias. They mostly reside in 10 to 12 urban centers max, maybe 8 to 12 urban centers across the country. I mean, we are, it's very much the mode of analysis is corrupted to the point where right now you'll find so much confusion across the board in this instance. Right now, right now, as we sit down, the war is over. It's been or at least that's what Trump has tweeted, and I think we'll get into the specifics of it.
Yeah.
So the October 7th thing, COVID happened. Qasem Soleimani was assassinated. I think that time. Right around then, maybe 2 months before.
Right before then, yeah.
In January 2020. It's been a domino effect of people great personalities, people who have met the historical moment, leave this earth. If you have not been able to deduce, where you stand, let alone what your role is, that's a secondary question. Where you stand, maybe. It's very troubling for me as someone who has been I'll talk about my own experience. I've been part of the Houston community for almost 24 or 25 years now. I've grown up with folks, and it's like, hey dude, there's just no confusion. It's just as in there's no nuancing this any which way. It's okay, as in it's okay to be right.
Well, clearly there's a lot of confusion, as in it. I don't think that. Yeah, I was thinking about this, right? I was like, okay. On the day that he passed away, I was at one of the mosques, one of the centers, and was just talking to some people, and I couldn't help but think this is only a bad thing if nothing changes. This is only a bad thing for you if you don't change. And changing meaning what? Really, it's a reality check. I think when you're talking about that emasculating feeling, it's a feeling of seeing the gap between how one person has met the moment and how we have been able to or not able to meet the moment, and realizing the importance of that moment and feeling like a loser, but
because we have these long drawn out plans, and they include things like we were big on the Bernie train. We were big on I know a lot of people are really excited about Zoran.
Yeah,
extremely excited about Zoran. And
too excited.
When 228,
we never did an episode on that.
Man, there's been so much happening, and in the grand scheme of things, this was a little side quest for the community here, the left adjacent Muslim sympathetic community here. It was a little bone. It's not. It wasn't it's what's happened over the past 3 months has been so much more groundbreaking. Zoran we'll get into Zoran at some point, and we'll talk to some folks who might have a more optimistic view. And I think defaulting to the negative is not a good thing either. Before we get into the mode of analyses on these matters, I wanted to, it did not seem appropriate in my mind to give condolences to anyone in this. I mean, it's a life that is that was lived to the fullest by any measure. And the ultimate goal, if you're a Shia Muslim, that is something that, the U.S. and Israel gave a Shia Muslim what he dreams of. And I think there's a video of Ayatollah Khamenei. He's like, hey, he's telling the kid's like, hey, I want to be a martyr. The kid, Ayatollah Khamenei is like, no, you live a full life. When you're 80, 90, then get martyrdom.
Yeah, it was the kid was like, I want to become a martyr. He was like, study, work hard, contribute something, make something of yourself. When you're like 80, 90, then you'll be a martyr. Yeah. And that's what you see, martyrdom, the way it's portrayed in like the Western media and the Western discourse is a bunch of crazy people who are just like, oh, I want to go get killed. I'm going to, it's a process, right? It's a process of living the right life, living a life that's worthy of that death. And I think that goes back to where it's like, wait, what are we? You see the difference.
I mean, the condolence part, I don't want to get it twisted. A lot of people were like, hey, it's okay. This is a part of Shia Islam. You will be deprived of also. You can go out in the street right here in Washington, Houston, and you can do all the protesting, do whatever you want. You are not important enough for someone to martyr. Your political will, your ideology is not strong enough to influence even the people around you sometimes, let alone getting martyred and doing what. And if you want an example of that, I think I'm forgetting the name, Aaron, the U.S. Marine who set himself on fire. Excuse me, I don't want, obviously, that's
Aaron Bushnell.
Yeah. Very, I guess a brave act. I don't want to, the impact those kinds of things happen when your ideology is murky is in front of you. I forgot the guy's name right now. It's not a death that it deserves people to remember. But in this media ecosystem, in this cultural, like the space that we're in at the moment, and the trajectory is going downward. These things hold very little weight, frankly, unless you
the staying power is very limited.
Unless you've done the things that, again, you pointed to, Ayatollah Khamenei had done.
Yeah.
Leading a life. I think I know one of our friends might join us soon, Bilal. He recently ordered his book. I read it a while back. His book, I think the foreword is by Ali Shariati on
which book?
On Allama Iqbal.
Oh, okay.
And while the book, I recommend it. It's a great book. I'm going to reread it, and it's it really synthesizes multiple things, especially if you're a Shia Muslim who is also South Asian. There is this beauty of Ayatollah Khamenei's way of describing something. He will describe something that is very, very troubling, but he'll do it in a manner that negates every single troubling part of that, and you are able to consume and digest the information in a very, very easily.
Yeah.
Rather than you having to we have these conversations all the time, and it's very easy for either person, whether you're right or wrong, or whether you're an ideologue or you're more of a generalist, to succumb to frustration. Because these things, the more you get into it, the more things become self-evident, and the more these things become self-evident, the more frustrated you are at what you might have considered your cadre, your comrades, your friend group, your family, who sometimes refuse and sometimes are unable to see the obvious. But with his martyrdom, one other issue that we had voiced last year or maybe about 18 months ago, when the regime in Syria fell, we had, or at least I won't put words into your mouth, Sean. I had assessed that if we have the methodical imperial creep that we had seen maybe the past 50, 60 years, if that had stayed true to its nature, we would have seen the U.S., maybe along with Israel and some of its Gulf GCC countries, just wait out the lifetime of Imam Khamenei and wait for his replacement, who, by my estimation at that time, and I think what we're learning, if this had not happened, there would have been someone who was a much softer figure in line and much older figure in line who would have changed the entire nature of the revolutionary government, the revolutionary state of Iran. That was negated completely by the U.S. and Israel themselves when they
Thank you,
did.
Trump.
Thank you, Trump. And
Thank you,
I
Trump.
really do. I mean, I'm going to talk about this later. I really do believe Trump is a.
Thank you for your
Iranian
attention
agent.
to this matter.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. I really believe there's a lot of evidence. This
Trump
guy
is
might
an
be.
IRGC agent.
He might be an IRGC. I mean, he said that he's tweeting out thanks be to Allah. Like he might
Yeah,
mean
praise
it.
be to Allah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting that they have set the stage for Mujtaba Khamenei, Imam Mujtaba Khamenei, to be the successor. That would have been, in my estimation, very unlikely 2 years ago. I think if Ayatollah Khamenei had, lived another 10 years and passed away because of natural causes, the temperament of the country, the state, the forces that make up that are the main stakeholders of the state apparatus, particularly the merchant class, would be empowered. Having an ulama at the top who is not in line with the RIGC or not particularly militaristic or wants to make a deal with the West. This is not to portray Imam Khamenei as a hardliner. And I think it's safe to say that he showed a fair amount of restraint for decades.
Yeah.
And because this matter got dealt with within 2 months as soon as he left. Within 2 months, this is totally done. These missiles were there 2 months ago.
Yeah.
This resolve was there two months ago. Everything was there. The only thing holding the gate, holding the fort for either end, for good measure, was Imam Khamenei.
Yeah.
And once that gate was removed, the death certificate was not his. It was Israel's that was written. It was the UAE's that was written. And that is the beauty of death, right? It's a great equalizer. It's a great quote. I think I don't want to misquote the ayah from the Quran. And we're not a religious podcast. We're not scholars. So, we don't want to get too, but when Hazrat Musa is in front of the Pharaoh and the magicians, I guess their magic was overshadowed by the miracles of Hazrat Musa. They immediately repented.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, you're the vice regent of God.
Yeah.
You're the vice regent of God. So Pharaoh goes, yo, you're my magicians. I'm gonna, it's about you. Yeah, I'm gonna take you behind the woodshed.
Yeah.
So the magicians say this thing that's in the Quran. It's like, do what you got to, but you only have control over this world. You can do whatever you want, but you, at the end of the day, will have only control over this world. And that's where, after death, you and me, we're going into the ground, and after that, you will see what happens. We'll take our bets. And in this case, if life is lived in the way Ayatollah Khamenei lived, then death becomes so magnanimous, the magnitude of it.
Yeah.
It becomes a blessing almost for the entire world. And right now, we can say the descaling of empire across the world, across the Pacific Rim, across the Persian Gulf, is the byproduct of one man.
Would you say that the U.S. assassinating him was the death knell for the U.S.'s global hegemony? Was that the
100%.
death blow that killed the U.S.'s grip over the world?
100%.
Yeah.
Today, when we're from episode 5 to from episode 6, that was our last episode, to the one we're going to release this one. In that time period, the U.S. empire, the global hegemony has fallen.
Cooked.
Again, this is not to be hyperbolic. If you were to study history 100 years from now, they will talk about this, past 2-3 months, the 2/28, the assassination. That was the death nail. That was the death certificate. We're done here. It was over. As soon as it happened, it was over.
I swear Trump is a Iranian agent.
He single-handed, I think, and we can...
That's insane.
I would really hope that we, in the coming weeks, months, years, we really reflect on what we lost and what the aims were in their lifetimes. I will caveat this with we have criticized the Iranian government in the past, not the state, the government. So Pezeshkian, Rouhani, Khatami, Lanatullah,
Right?
Rafsanjani.
Yeah.
We have been anti counter revolutionary forces in Iran, and we will continue to do so. At no point is our criticism of the Iranian civilian government or different bureaucrats within Iran, their diplomats, their foreign ministers, Javad Zarif, Abbas Araghchi, that is not our opinion on the Iranian state and what its position is when we talk about the forces of good and evil across the world.
So I think that's where the Islamic Revolution of Iran needs to be recentered. Um, it was in 1979, but I think a lot of the controversy stems from people not understanding the revolution, whether that's controversy within the Shia world with regards to Iran or controversy within the broader politic in general or in the media or among people, is understanding the point of the revolution and the reason for the revolution and the fact that Iran right now as a state, you may have criticisms about its social policies or about different policies of the country, but the state being a vehicle to carry the revolution and to carry on and carry out the goals of the revolution is what's critical. The goals of the revolution including effectively decolonizing that region. So when people talk about Iran and the regime and regime change and this and that, oppression and this and that, the oppressiveness of the regime on the people and freedom and whatnot, there's a complete ignorance of the fact that this whole project of the Islamic Revolution is there to free the whole region. And by extension, that region is a critical region in the world. By extension, the whole colonized world from the hegemony of capitalist imperialism. And these terms sound like, I'm just hegemony, capitalist, imperialism, blah, blah, blah. These things have real impacts on the lives of billions of people around the world. Colonialism, imperialism, Western capitalist imperialism has wrecked, raped, pillaged, plundered the lives of the masses of people throughout Latin America, Africa, and a lot of Asia. Today and for generations, for centuries. And so to understand this martyrdom or to understand the government of Iran or Iran in the context of the social policies that you see or the aesthetics of it or whatever, and to not understand it in the historical context, in a material context, through the lens of the social structure, the political structures, the economic structures, and the civilizational and intellectual heritage of the different forces that are acting in the world, to ignore all of that would be a travesty. And so, like you said, when we criticize Iran, I mean, we don't really criticize Iran. What we're criticizing is not the actual project of the Islamic Revolution, and that itself is the entire point. So anybody who wants to, fanboy Iran as a country, because there's that too, people who just blindly fanboy it and fanboy everything about it, missing the point that it's the revolution that's the point.
And
right?
dignity, and nothing is
Right.
more undignified than sycophancy.
Yeah.
Like, get off your knees. We don't want that.
Yeah.
Any of our group is not, we're not sycophants.
Yeah.
We say what we say what's right, and that's what makes us us, or at
Yeah.
least makes us motivated to be part of that group.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned this earlier, that like this assassination, this death has been the catalyst of victory. And it really gives coherence to, if someone has any questions. I know a lot of Sunni Muslims right now are really interested in this subject, and Shia Islam overall is getting a lot of attention. We saw there's a bunch of personalities online, Sunni personalities, that are really trying to deep dive into this. If you have any qualms or questions, if you think it's fantastical that someone can get victory by dying, in Imam Husayn's case, witness it live.
Yeah.
And this is something that's interesting about life, that no science or academic or political science thing, it's only like small phrases and epithets that can really define it. It shows you anything that you have questions about, it shows you in real time. And we've seen the modern day manifestation of Imam Husayn's struggle and how it led to the downfall of Yazid. We saw it live in the past 2 months.
Yeah.
We'll do it live. But that is that's a blessing. That's a blessing that life bestows upon you if you have the vision to recognize it.